The U.S. Supreme Court has handed President Trump a victory, letting him and his administration use the 1798 law that historically has been employed only in wartime to swiftly deport alleged Venezuelan gang members as part of the Republican president's hardline approach to immigration.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the Supreme Court handing President Trump a victory by allowing the administration to use the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport criminal aliens belonging to gangs like Trinidad, Aragua, MS-13, etc. Remember, I covered the story about the Maryland father who was deported to El Salvador? Well, I believe the Alien Enemies Act would justify that. There's still some back and forth talking about, oh, you got to bring him back. I don't think he'll return, and I think this decision will keep him right where he's at. Now, some are going to say, well, ABO, this is an old law. How can it be used right now? We're not really in war. Are we not in war? When you have 20 million on a low level, kind of a conservative estimate, 20 million illegal aliens pouring into the country within just a 4-year period of time. And in that 20 million, you get a bunch of drugs, guns, criminals, gang members, organized crime. I think that's a form of warfare. When you're flooding our streets with fentanyl, when you're flooding our streets with human traffickers, you get kids being abducted, women being abducted. I think that's a form of warfare. And I think the 1798 Alien Enemies Act is appropriate to get these individuals up out of here. And also, here's something else talking about, oh, well, there's no due process, ABL, no due process. Well, where was the due process? Where was the law being followed when the aliens were allowed in the country to begin with? When they were allowed to just pour in here illegally, no border patrol? Where was the law being followed when Texas tried to secure the border and then the federales said, no, don't secure it? When they put up concertina wire and the feds lifted it up, got it out the way. When the feds were telling Border Patrol pretty much just give them the Olay treatment, let them on in, don't put up any resistance. Where was the law being followed during that time? I'm having a hard time being able to figure it out. Now, before I go any further, let's get to a couple of clips. The first one, I think this is Brett Baer from the very beginning that I played. I'm going to play that full one. Then I'm going to play a news report. I'll link to this video, that video, articles, everything in the box. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit a link in the bio. Go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
We're getting some breaking news at this hour coming out of the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court has handed President Trump a victory, letting him and his administration use the 1798 law that historically has been employed only in wartime to swiftly deport alleged Venezuelan gang members as part of the Republican president's hardline approach to immigration, granting that administration request to lift the Washington-based U.S. judge James Boasberg's March 15th order that had temporarily blocked the summary deportations under the Alien Enemies Act while litigation in the case continues. So the Supreme Court has weighed in. We're getting some breaking.
So there we go. That's that. Now let's get to the next thing here. A little bit more information, a little bit more context. I'm excited about what's happening in the country. Some are afraid, but I like what's happening. I don't think that it makes a lot of sense for our country to be overrun by all these criminal aliens. And if we have these people here, they got to go. They have to go immediately, ASAP.
We have some breaking news for you on this Monday evening. You're taking a look here at a post on X from the Associated Press as they are now reporting some breaking news that the Supreme Court has lifted a court order blocking President Trump from deporting Venezuelans under a rarely used 1798 wartime law.
And it's weird because one thing that the left are not talking about, this is an AP post, and the AP used to be neutral and more balanced and fair, but now they've become a leftist rag for the most part. One thing they don't say is that there are a bunch of quote unquote obscure or rarely used laws that the left use all the time. The 2020 election was a prime example of that. So I'm not really trying to hear, oh, why are you using the old law? Y'all do the same thing. But when we do it, all of a sudden it's a problem. Y'all also break laws and don't follow laws. So I'm not really trying to hear, all this, moral equivalence, moral high ground. I'm not really trying to hear it.
Now, that decision came down 5-4, with the court saying that the migrants still must get a chance to challenge their deportation before they are taken out of the country, and said the Trump administration must give them, quote, reasonable time to go to court. But the conservative majority said the legal challenges must take place in Texas instead of a Washington courtroom. The AP goes on to say that the justices acted on the administration's emergency appeal after the federal appeals court in Washington left in place an order temporarily prohibiting deportations of the migrants accused of being gang members under the Rarely Used Alien Enemies Act.
Let's pause for a minute. Let's go back to the whole thing about the court proceedings taking place in Texas. Now, that's brilliant, and that's going to be a deterrent, because automatically, if you're coming into the country illegally and you wind up in Texas, like if you're coming through the border and you arrive in Texas and you got to go to court in Texas to see whether you're going to stay or not, you're going to get deported immediately. It's not even going to be nothing. It'll be a formality. Okay, Mr. X, Y, and Z, you came in here illegally and you want to stay. How about no? Go back right now. So that's going to be a deterrent if automatically you're not going to be able to get through. See, a lot of these migrants, what they'll do, they'll go to places where they know it's going to be favorable. Denver, Chicago, New York. They go to a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state. But Texas is not that. It's not a sanctuary state, and I don't believe there's any sanctuary cities. Maybe Austin might want to be a sanctuary city, but I don't even think they're going to be able to do it. So if you're in court in Texas, you're going to get deported.
The case has become a flashpoint amid escalating tension between the White House and the federal courts. So that is just the latest here. We do have some video on your screen just showcasing some of those deportations, some of which we have shown live as several of those migrants touched down in Venezuela, happening very recently here. But we do continue to have more reaction from within the Trump administration regarding this breaking news. Here on your screen, we have a post from Attorney General Pam Bondi, also saying this: the Supreme Court sides with the Trump administration on the Alien Enemies Act. Tonight's decision is a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in Washington, D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's, authority to conduct, and then that tweet does go on to say, to conduct foreign policy and keep the American people safe. It finishes off by saying the Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again.
Yeah.
So that is the reaction from Attorney General Pam Bondi, who has been at the forefront when it comes to these discussions having to do with the deportations that have been brought forth.
Hey, shout out to Pam Bondi. Shout out to the whole administration. They are doing a very good job. Some try to say, oh, do you regret your vote? Regret? What you mean regret? I mean, that's probably the best thing I've done in a long time. I don't have any regrets. No regrets. They, on the other side, don't like what's happening, and they're trying to gaslight us into thinking that we don't like it. Nah, we like it. Y'all don't. And that's fine. If you don't like the results of the election, that's totally fine. It's okay. You have the right to your opinion, but don't try to tell me that I feel the same way you do. Actually, I don't. I feel good. I feel real good.
By the Trump administration. Just continuing to follow all of this breaking news here. Again, with the Associated Press just reporting that the Supreme Court has lifted a court order blocking the Trump administration from deporting Venezuelan migrants under an 18th century wartime law in that decision that came down 5-4.
So yeah, shout out to the Supreme Court. And look, shout out to President Trump for appointing I think he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. You got Amy Coney Barrett, you have Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. I think that's all of what he had appointed. That's big, because if not for that, I don't know how we would be surviving. What if Hillary Clinton was to become the president in 2016? Man, the whole country would be in shambles. It had been in shambles. We saw what they can do in 2020. We saw that. As far as Democrats, that was a mess. 2020 to 2024, they did not do a very good job. So I'm glad we got the adults back in the room, and I'm glad we have the Supreme Court making the correct decisions. Now, as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to all the legal immigrants I have nothing against people that follow the law. Whether you're here in a visa, whether you're here permanently, whatever it is, you follow the law. Now, some may not like the laws that are on the books, but the laws are on the books. Okay. Some may not like the fact that you have a lot of migrants here with legal status who did things the right way and didn't just try to bogart a southern border, filing a false asylum claim. Some don't like the migrants that are here the right way, but they followed the law and they didn't try to finesse it. The same way we're following the law with the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. We're following the law too. So it goes both ways. I think that's fine. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about the Supreme Court allowing the Trump administration to use the 1798 Alien Enemies Act? It is weird because they're talking about, oh, it's an old law. There's a lot of old laws in the books. I mean, how old is our Constitution? We use that every day. Right to bear arms, freedom of speech. Although some of those rights are under attack, it's still old laws that we use every day. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I think this is great. This is fantastic. I like it, love it, want more of it. Shout out Tim McGraw. This is what I voted for. I do not regret my decision. I would do the same thing again. You can go back in time and just be in 2016, be in 2020, be in 2024. I would not do anything differently. Not at all. I'm glad that we have law and order coming back to this country because we need to keep American citizens safe from the criminal aliens like Tren de Agua, MS-13, and etc. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.